Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here, and today we're in the year 2130 and the most disruptive technology of the third millennium is finally out. It's the hyperlocal gravity engines that are capable of governing the gravity force and even able to hold skyscrapers upside down. Now we find ourselves at the final of the Zero Gravity tournament to find out who's going to be able to capture the coveted flag. Now the world's best teams competed all year to be here, and the surviving 4 teams will be contesting for the championship led by their daring commanders. Now elite warriors will fight each other to obtain cheers from the crowd, which are points, in the capture the flag matches held inside a cubic arena allowing for any kind of movement. Zero Gravity is a capture the flag game for 2 to 4 players featuring an innovative 3D arena, 80+ miniatures with fresh and unique gameplay. It has an adjustable game length that takes an hour or less to play, and it's published by District Games. Now it's on Kickstarter right now, so I'm going to show you the game, how it works, and then I'll see you on the other side. Now this is a Kickstarter preview, so all the components I show you here are going to be prototype components. Throughout the course of this video, I'm going to show you some of the final images of what some of these components are going to be, but always you're going to want to check the Kickstarter page in the link in the description of this video to see all the final art and components. Each player is going to start with a team. In this case, we are the Tokyo Demons. And here, what you're trying to do in the game is get a certain amount of cheers from the audience by things that you do in the arena, hence points. Now you can play a quick game up to 15 cheers, a standard game to 30, or an epic game up to 50. And so here we have the Moscow Jackals, and each team is going to have a commander, a jumper, a sniper, a Harrier, and many troopers. Now, most of these are right here, right now. One of these is actually on the board. I'll show you in just a moment. But these are going to be the prototype components I show you now. But as I talk more about these different characters, I will show you some of the images of them. Now here is the actual arena. It is a 3-dimensional cube, and you're going to be moving around to all 4 different sides using magnetics being able to hang from the side and even the top. Now each team is going to start in a starting area. This one's on the right side of the cube. It's labeled B1. This is a starting area for the Moscow Jackals. They will have a flag that they'll place somewhere in this area, and this is the flag that other teams are trying to steal for a lot of cheers. And they'll also have a spawn point where they'll be able to spawn more people out of. And then over on the other side of the board, you'll see they have their commander sort of magnetically stuck to their A1 starting area, and they also have a spawn point and a flag as well in that area. You'll also notice this support structure holds the board together, but it also helps you see what the column numbers are, because this will be important for some of the moves in the game. Now at the beginning of the game, there's also a bomb in the middle of the arena there at the bottom floor, and that's going to be important later when I talk about scoring. There's also going to be randomly some different things out there like crates that we'll talk about later, and some different beasts that are not owned by any one player but can be used by other players to attack and do different things that we'll go over later. The game is played over multiple rounds, and each round goes through 4 phases. But before we go through the phases, let me talk about what you're trying to do in this game. In each player's player aid, they have a scoring summary here that tells you how you score cheers or points in the game. Now you get the most points for getting the opponent's flag and bringing it back to your area. So for example, the blue team, the Tokyo Demons, if they get all the way over here to this B1 and they're able to steal the flag and bring it all the way back to theirs, they'll get the 15 points, which in a quick game would be the whole entire game. If they're able to get the flag from here and move it to the other area over here, they'll get 1 point. Now here we see the bomb. It's in the middle of the bottom of the arena. If you're able to go there and grab it and carry it all the way to the top of this arena where you're upside down, there's an area up there that exactly mirrors this area here. And if you bring the bomb to the middle of that, it's called the gate, and you detonate it and you get 10 points. Now you can also carry that bomb, and if you bring it adjacent to one of the opponent's spawning points, it detonates and blows that up, and in that case you get 8 cheers. If you're able to eliminate an enemy's commander, you'll get 5 cheers. If you eliminate any of the beasts out in the arena, you'll get 2 cheers. You'll get 3 cheers for eliminating an enemy's jumper, sniper, or Harrier. These are known as champions. And you'll get 1 cheer for eliminating an enemy's trooper. And all of the things I just spoke about are right here with icons that you learn pretty quickly once playing the game. Now, speaking of these different characters here, they have these icons here, and these are energy. And this shows you what the maximum amount of energy they can have, and if they run out of those, you'll lose one every time you take damage. They'll be eliminated if you run out of energy. Now, the commander, all the players playing, their commanders will start with all 5 of these. Now, there'll be tokens that you'll be placing on here to show you the energy. The prototype components are pretty large, and I want to show off the artwork. So the commanders both start with 5, and they're tracked with these tokens that you place on top of here. But for the prototypes, I'm just going to take this off so you can see the artwork better. Now, the first phase is the restock phase, and going in player order, every player is going to get one of these sponsor cards. These are going to allow you to break the rules of the game a little bit. They're either going to be movements, actions, or tools. I'll go over some of these later. Now, in addition to that, you're going to get a certain amount of coins depending on a certain thing. Now, there'll be a whole supply of these, but you'll automatically get 2 of these coins. You'll also get 1 for each spawning point you have out. So the more spawning points you get, the more coins. And over the course of the round, you'll be running and possibly grabbing these crates, and each of the crates that you got last round will give you an additional coin. Then in turn order, you go to the trooper phase, where each player can place a new trooper in any of the adjacent cells from a spawning point, and then in any order, they can activate their troopers. Each player is going to do this, bringing them in possibly, and then activating them, and then it will go to the next player's turn. So let's tell you what these troopers can do. Now, moving is shown here. We have the trooper, and this shows you how many spaces in any direction the trooper can move. So one of the things you could do is move. You can also run, which is moving 2 additional spots. You can do one or the other, either move or run. However, instead of moving, you can attack, or along with moving, you can attack. So if I move my 1 here, I am now adjacent to this other player's trooper. I can then attack them. Now, you can perform a melee attack if you're directly adjacent to the unit that you're attacking. If you look at this picture here, the orange squares are the ones that you could melee attack because they're surrounding you directly. Now, the only type of attack a trooper can do is melee right around them, and you'll be using 2 blue dice, a yellow, and a red. I've placed all of the dice here just to show you the different types. This one hits 2 out of 6, 3 out of 6, 4 out of 6, and 5 out of 6. So in this case, we're going to be rolling these ones just like that. So let's say from that attack, there were 2 hits. The defending trooper looks at the defense, and they roll those dice, 2 yellows. And let's say they had 1 hit. So this one would cancel out this one, and 1 hit is left. And with a trooper, even 1 hit will destroy it, so that trooper is eliminated. And if you destroy a trooper, you'll get 1 cheer. So this team has now got 1 cheer. After all players have finished the trooper phase, we move to the champions phase. And going in clockwise order, each player will take one of the possible actions in this phase. One of them is to activate a spawning point, which is to place a champion next to one of their spawning points. Now, to activate one of those, you'd look at one of your 3 champions here, and you'd look at their energy. Now, to bring one in, you essentially have to spend at least 1 coin, but for every coin you spend, it will give this 1 energy. So you could spend 1, but this player, this sniper would only have 1 energy, but you could spend 3 coins, and there'd be 3 of these here, and you'd be full with 3 energy. So it's up to you how much coins you want to spend. Now, also notice that these champions don't just have melee, they have primary and secondary attacks that we're going to go over here in just a moment. But notice that they all use different types of dice for each of the attacks, and each of the actual factions or teams, if you will, they're different distributions depending on it. For example, look at this. This sniper has a different distribution than this sniper, for example. So let's say this player brought this sniper in here, and since they activated their spawn point, it'd go to the next player. You're each doing one of these possible actions. One of the other things you can do when it's your turn in the champions phase is to pass, where you'd flip over your mascot's logo there, and it would be pass, and you'd still be able to roll dice to defend yourself and things like that. But once everybody has passed, that's when it will leave the champions phase. But let's talk about the last possible thing you can do in this phase. Now, you could do things with the champions that you could also do with the troopers, like the move and attack we talked about, and running, moving a little bit faster. But when attacking now that you can do a primary attack, they work a little bit differently. Here in this picture, you'll see these yellow squares. This can be done with the primary attacks, and you need to see line of sight, and anything can block that, but you can use this on the same level or even up on the corridor, as you see on that angled piece there on the left side there. You can actually hit up on the corridors as well if there's any people there. Another option you have with the champion is to jump. You'll see here it says jump area. It's this whole entire blue section that you see here, and you can jump. So right now this one is in B4, and so it can jump down to B4 on this section. And now that you know about jumping, you can do those secondary attacks, which essentially can be done within the jump areas. And you look at where the corresponding area is on that other level, and you look at that space and all the ones surrounding it. Like here, this one, you can see it all highlighted in yellow from where this player is. They can do a secondary attack there. One of the actions you can do with these champions is to power jump. We're in a corridor here on B. You can power jump all the way up to the B in the opposite spot in the corridor. And another thing you could possibly do is to drop. This champion is on B3. It can drop directly a load of B3 here, and it can only land on objects, or it can be empty, but it can't land on other units. But here, it landed on B3, and it got to get this crate, which, as I told you earlier, gets you coins in the next restock phase. After all the players have passed in the champions phase, we go to the scenario phase. We're starting with the player with the least amount of cheers, and then going upwards. Each of those players are going to roll 2 dice. Depending on the results of those dice, you're going to place a beast and possibly some crates out on the board. For example, if you rolled a 6 or an 8, you'll place a Minotaur and a crate in one of those spots that has 6 or 8. So remember, we can place on a 6 or an 8, so we can maybe place the crate here. And then here we have a 5 or a 6, and since it's a 6, we can place a Minotaur there. We're going to show you what these do a little bit later. Because when you place those beasts, you can move and attack just like a unit, you can run, or you could do a certain beast move and its quirk depending on the beasts. So we're going to go over those later, but you activate them right when you place them. Now, if when rolling those dice, if you get doubles, you can rotate this entire area cube clockwise or counterclockwise 90 degrees, so it changes which one's on the top, on the sides, and on the bottom. After all the players have finished the scenario phase, you go back to that restock phase. Again, you're going to continue going through these rounds, going through those 4 different phases until one player has enough cheers for the type of game that you're playing. So let's talk about some of the different units. The commanders, here's what they'll look like for the 4 different teams. And essentially they have 5 energy to start with, but once they've lost all their energy, they're gone for the game. Now the special thing they can do is instead of attacking, they can create a new spawning point, which allows you to have more options of to where bring people out, and also you'll be getting more coins for that at the beginning of each round. Here are the Harriers for each of the 4 teams. They can only have up to a maximum of 3 energy, and when they drop from the top of the arena down, as I showed earlier, they basically deal 1 energy damage to all units adjacent to that landing point. Now here is the Sniper for the 4 different teams. They can have up to 3 energy, and when they do their primary attack, it doesn't have the 4 cell distance limit. So if you remember, this primary attack shows here in the different yellow squares, and it can go further than the 4. Now here are the different jumpers for the 4 teams. They can have up to 3 energy, and they have a bigger jump area on the map. So you see the jump area normally ends where the blue is, but this jumpers line means that the jumper can jump from 1 space further out. Now here's what the troopers look like for the 4 different teams. We've discussed them earlier, how they only have 1 energy, and they cannot jump, power jump, or drop. Now let's talk about those different beasts. The Minotaur, here's what it looks like. It'll have 1 energy, and it can basically pick up and hurl in any direction, any unit that's adjacent to it. So it can pick up someone's sniper, for example, and throw it. And if it throws it beyond the borders of the board, it's removed from play. It can also be thrown into other units, and both of them will lose 1 energy. And if you throw it into a place where it has an object, you can apply the effect of that object. Now here is the mine layer. It has 1 energy, and you can put into play a mine in an empty cell adjacent to the mine layer. For example, this mine layer places a mine here, and what happens if any unit goes into there, that unit and everyone surrounding that will lose 1 energy, but no one gets any cheers for it. Now here's what the replicator will look like. It has 1 energy, and it can put into play a new beast of any type in an empty cell adjacent to it. Now we talked a little bit about the bomb earlier. This is how it will look, and you'll get 10 points if you bring this to the gate, which at the beginning of the game is at the top of the arena. But you can also pass it to other players from your team. You can also hold the flag along with it, and if you go adjacent to a spawning point, it'll blow it up, and everyone will lose 1 energy that's within 2 cells of it. Here's what the flag will look like. You can pass it to another player on your team, and you're trying to get the opponent's flag into your area for the 15 cheers. This is what the spawning points will look like, and as mentioned earlier, this is how you bring new units onto the map, and for each of these you'll be getting a coin in the restock phase. Now the mines we placed were just little tokens, but they'll really look like this. And also the crates were just tokens in this video, but they'll look like this. In the restock phase, we talked about the sponsor cards and how they help you break the rules of the game, but now you know how the game's played, these will make more sense. There's 3 different types. These ones are movements. For example, you may move an opponent's hero or trooper up to 4 cells. Or maybe this one, you can move one of your heroes or troopers from the spawning cell to another one of your choosing with a similar number. Or these ones are tools. You can steal, which is pick a sponsor card from an opponent of your choice randomly. Frenzy, which allows you to add +1 movement to all your heroes and troopers. Or it's a lucky day where you get to draw 3 sponsor cards. And there's some for attacking. The fragmentation grenade. Basically, from where you are, you get to attack all the way in that red region. Same thing with a crossed attack. You can attack through here and or through there. Or you can have a gust, which allows you to have 2 additional primary attacks. And each of the teams has a special ability. For example, every time the Tokyo Demons score cheers, they add 1 extra. Or the Jackals at the beginning of the turn, you can place a trooper in a cell adjacent to any member of the Jackals. Now again, you'll continue going through all this until any one team has the amount of cheers set for that type of game. Well, there you have Zero Gravity, and as I've shown in the overview, it's a very unique game with not only miniatures, but the cubic arena that allows for any kind of movement. But it's not just a gimmick, because there is plenty to think about in this game. For instance, how many troopers will be sacrificed to protect the team's jumpers? Or how do you make best use of this unique playing area with vertical and horizontal surfaces? And when's the right time to go and get that flag? If you'd like to see the final art and components and all of the different pledge levels available, you can click the link below me in the description of this video, and it will take you directly to the Kickstarter project page, and I'm sure the fine folks at District Games would love your support.